Hey guys, welcome back. This is part 3 of a deep dive into Voltaire. So if you haven't already, I would recommend checking out parts 1 and 2 of this series, where I'm doing short vignettes, basically trying to read and understand his Wikipedia page, which is, of course, a crude summary of this guy. Let's continue. Let's try to understand this sentence here. So, thus he henceforward conceded that if his book was so bad for our times and for us, it was very good for his contemporaries, and his religion even more so. It must be admitted that he removed almost all of Asia from idolatry, and that it was difficult for such a simple and wise religion, taught by a man who was constantly victorious, could hardly fail to subjugate a portion of the earth. He considered that its civil laws are good, its dogma is admirable, which is in common with ours, but that his means are shocking, deception, and murder. So this is from Smollett et al. 1901, a book called The Works of Voltaire, a Philosophical Dictionary. Compiled, this is in 1901, so the beginning of the 20th century. In his essays on the manners and spirits of nation, published in 1956, Voltaire deals with the history of Europe before Charlemagne and the dawn of Louis XIV, and that of the colonies in the East. As a historian, he devoted several chapters to Islam. He highlighted the Arabian, Turkish courts, and conducts. Here he called Muhammad a poet and stated that he was not an illiterate. As a legislator, he changed the face of part of Europe and one half of Asia. Chapter 6, Voltaire finds similarities between Arabs and ancient Hebrews, that they both kept running to battle in the name of God, and sharing a passion for the spoils of war. Voltaire continues, it is to be believed that Muhammad, like all enthusiasts, violently struck by his ideas, first represented them in good faith, strengthened them with fantasy, fooled himself in fooling others, and supported through necessary deceptions a doctrine which he considered good. He thus compares the genius of the Arab people with the genius of the ancient Romans. According to Ruthven, Voltaire learned more about Islam. His opinion of the faith became more positive. So as he learned more, he became more positive. As a result, his play Mohammed inspired Goethe, who was attracted to Islam, to write a drama on this theme, though we completed only his poem, Muhammad Singing. Okay. We're going to swing it to Judaism and hear his thoughts on Judaism. So according to Orthodox Rabbi Telushkin, the most significant Enlightenment hostility against Judaism was found in Voltaire. 30 of the 118 articles in Dictionnaire philosophique these are an encyclopedic dictionary published by the Enlightenment thinker in 1964. So 30 of 118, which is a bit less than 30%, dealt with Jews or Judaism, describing them in consistently negative ways. For example, in Voltaire's A Philosophical Dictionary. This one. He wrote of Jews, in short, we find in them only an ignorant and barbarous people who have long united the most sordid avarice with the most detestable superstition and the most invincible hatred for every people by whom they tolerated and enriched. Telushkin states that Voltaire did not limit his attack to aspects of Judaism that Christianity used as a foundation, repeatedly making it clear that he despised Jews, among others. It seems he despised all religion, including Jews. On the other hand, Peter Gay, a contemporary authority of the Enlightenment, points to Voltaire's remarks, for instance, that the Jews were more tolerant than the Christians in this, and surmises that Voltaire struck at the Jews to strike at Christianity. Whatever anti-Semitism Voltaire may have felt, Gay suggests derived from negative personal experience. Hertzberg, a rabbi, claims that Gay's second assumption is untenable. Voltaire himself denied its validity when he remarked that he had forgotten about how much larger bankruptcies through Christians. However, Schwarz-Bach's far more detailed study of Voltaire's dealings with Jewish people throughout his life concluded that he was anti-biblical, not anti-Semitic. His remarks on the Jews and their superstitions were essentially no different from his remarks on Christians. Voltaire said of the Jews that they have surpassed all nations in impertinent fables, rude, in bad conduct, and in barbarism. You deserve to be punished, and this is your destiny. He further said, they are, all of them, born with raging fanaticism in their hearts, just as the Bretons and the Germans are born with blonde hair. I would not be in the least bit surprised if these people would not someday become deadly to the human race. Interesting. Interesting. So I'm jumping to here. Voltaire did have a Jewish friend, Daniel de Fonesca, who he esteemed highly, proclaimed him as the only philosopher perhaps among the Jews of his time. Voltaire condemned the persecution of Jews on several occasions, including in Henriade. And he never advocated violence or attacks against them, which seems to me clear. This man is, it seems, anti-religion. Just from my short perusing of this Wikipedia page, seems like he is at odds with all of religion. And this stems from him being a deist. I'm going to jump over to Christianity, just so that we can maybe read a little bit about this. So, historians have described Voltaire's description of the history of Christianity as propagandistic. Sorry. Third time's the charm. In his dictionary is responsible for the myth that the early church had 50 Gospels before settling on the standard canonical 4, as well as propagating the myth that the canon of the New Testament was decided at the First Council of Nicaea. Voltaire is partially responsible for the misattribution of the expression credo quia absurdum to the church fathers. So furthermore, despite the death of Hypatia being the result of finding herself in the crossfires of a mob, likely Christian, during a political feud in the 4th century Alexandria, Voltaire promoted the theory that she was stripped naked and murdered by the minions of the bishop Cyril of Alexandria, concluding by stating that when one finds a beautiful woman completely naked, it is not for the purpose of massacring her. So he is alluding to this Hypatia, someone who I've not previously heard of. I guess it's a story where she is murdered by a mob who are Christians. Uses this to slander them. So in a letter to Frederick the Great, he was a king of Prussia. He writes about Christianity. Ours, of course, the Christian religion, is assuredly the most ridiculous, the most absurd, and the most bloody religion which has ever infected the world. Your Majesty will do the human race an eternal service by extirpating this infamous superstition. I do not say among the rabble, who are not worthy of being enlightened, and who are apt for every yoke. I say among honest people, among men who think, among those who wish to stand. My one regret in dying is that I cannot aid you in this noble enterprise, the finest and most respectable which the human mind can point out. In this writing, he expressed the following attitude to lay reading of the Bible. It is characteristic of fanatics who read the Holy Scripture to tell themselves, God killed, so I must kill. Abraham lied, Jacob deceived, Rachel stole, so I must steal, deceive, lie. But wretch, you are neither Rachel nor Jacob, nor Abraham nor God. You are just a mad fool. And the popes who forbade the reading of the Bible were extremely wise. Voltaire's opinion of the Bible was mixed, although influenced by Socian works, such as these. Voltaire's skeptical attitude to the Bible separated from Unitarian theologians and even biblical political writers like John Locke. His statements on religion also brought down on him the fury of the Jesuits. This did not hinder religious practice, although it did win him for a bad reputation in certain religious circles. Mozart, who was deeply Christian, wrote to his father the year of Voltaire's death, saying, "The arch scoundrel Voltaire has finally kicked the bucket." Voltaire later deemed to influence Gibbon in claiming Christianity was a contributor to the fall of the Roman Empire. Okay, I'm going to end this here. This was fun. I'm going to conclude this sort of 3-part series on Voltaire here. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. Really helps me out. We're a small channel, so if you reach out, I might get back to you because we have barely 500 subscribers at this point. So have a good one. Wiki with me is signing